out and I'm listening and absorbing, and it's all very exciting. It's a great tired. It's a different kind of tired. It's an energizing tired, and that's how I felt last night, and I hope you did as well. We're going to start our day in prayer, and if we can get Reverend Williams to come and get us started off on the right foot this morning, that would be great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Let's go to the throne of grace this morning. Father God, we come now in the name of Jesus, just to say thanks for one more day, one more opportunity. Oh God, you've given us breath to witness another day. Father God, you're the God of all nations, all kindreds. You're the God that's here, there, and everywhere. Just come to say thanks for all the delegates that have arrived safely. Father God, and we rebuke any accidents going back home. And we will find everything the way we left, or even better. And we thank you for wealth that you've given us as far as information on how we can improve ourselves and others. So this day, we're going to leave you in charge, since you're the God of all knowledge and understanding. And we say thanks so much. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Williams. And yes, I hope everybody here today is connecting with other people in the room. And please remember that it doesn't end here. This is just the start of something fantastic. So please stay connected to people and chat with them. You know, my goal away yesterday, as I hope it was for you guys as well, is we are not alone. We are in this together, and other people understand some of those barriers we have even better than we do, and have already come over some things. So we feel very blessed and very lucky. We're going to continue with a land acknowledgement this morning by Mrs. Betty Thomas.
Thank you, Juanita. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, sorry, didn't go to sleep down late last night, right? The Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We honor their presence, stewardship, and strength in this area since time immemorial. Excuse me. We are grateful to be a guest on this land. We recognize the reconciliation, decolonization, and anti-racism are ongoing processes. And we are committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment that is free from prejudice and discrimination.
So we're gonna move into Betty's presentation as well. So yesterday we talked a lot about not enough, but more to come about development. And Betty's gonna talk about community development through political engagement for the Underground Railroad tours and settlements. And let me see, do we have that presentation?
Because it was initially scheduled for this afternoon.
Yes.
Dan, I think, has it.
Dan,
Dawn is not here, it's okay. They all know me now anyway, I've been for the last 2 days, so everyone knows me, right?
Okay, all right.
Yes. No problem. Good morning. World Conference of Mayors, NPA Canada members, community leaders, other conference hosts, conference attendees, and organizers. Before I begin, I want to publicly thank Alistair, Kendra, and NPA Canada for giving me the opportunity today to be one of your guest speakers. I deem it an absolutely great honor to be part of this conference honoring and celebrating the Underground Railroad's path to freedom, connecting Africa, the United States, and Canada. In the next few minutes, I am going to share my perspective on community development through political engagement for Underground Railroad towns and settlements through sharing some personal experiences, public civic engagement on municipal, provincial, and federal government agencies, boards, and commissions, and I'm going to be working with ABCs through the rest of the presentation, and appointments to ABCs. And also acknowledgement of social governance. First, from my personal experience. Growing up in the historic community of East Preston in Nova Scotia with my grandparents, I developed a very keen civic and community awareness. My grandfather's parents came to Nova Scotia through the United States. And listening to all of the presentations and talking to everyone throughout this conference, I know I have some homework to do when I go back to Nova Scotia again to do some more research on the family. My grandfather instilled in me the importance of achieving economic development through education, the political process, networking, and collaboration. Now, how did my grandfather achieve this? He encouraged me to attend political meetings with him to learn about politics and social injustices. And believe you me, at the time, I did not know the difference between municipal, provincial, or federal governments. I was just going along. Through many years attending these meetings with him, I learned the art of effective networking and collaboration. Concurrently, I worked at both full and part-time jobs and enrolled in the business administration at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax. My experience spans many years in member and membership roles with several nonprofit organizations, municipal government committees, provincial government advisory committees, provincial government regulatory boards, provincial and federal government adjudicative and non-adjudicative boards. Through these roles, I continue to give input during decision-making processes which encompasses but are not limited to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, In terms of the public civic engagements of municipal, provincial, and federal government agencies, boards, and commissions. Boards and commissions are an important part of government, and they give citizens an opportunity to have a voice in their government by helping create effective and equitable laws and policies. Boards and commissions are comprised of citizens and government employees. Individuals with unique voices and perspectives on opportunity to weigh in on how we can enrich the quality of life where we live. Boards and commissions are very unique in purpose, mission, and role. They are created by local government, by local, regional, or federal law in Canada, and by law or state laws in the United States. Some types of boards are advisory boards, develop policy and make recommendations to public officials on how to address specific issues. Regulatory boards oversee the licensing, handle complaints, and enforce disciplinary actions on individuals or industries that fall within the jurisdiction of the board's authority. Policy-making boards often serve as a governing body with an agency. Adjudicative and non-adjudicative boards adjudicate complaints or resolve appeals. Appointments to these ABCs. Citizens are appointed to ABCs through an application process advertised on their websites in Canada and the United States. And I'm sorry, I didn't do any research on Africa, but I'm sure that there is probably a process there as well. And eligibility. Citizens are screened for these positions based on specific requirements, and in particular, the applicant's contributions to involvement in and for their communities. Acknowledgements of social governance. Future generations in our communities must be made aware of programs which improve access to education for their individual development and social economic advancement. To accomplish this, mentors, families, and peers are required to encourage and sustain them through confidence building and, if necessary, to offer financial and moral support. However, in encouraging the next generation to get involved, two primary issues are essential. First, it is important to fortify civic and community awareness about the need to advocate and contribute on behalf of one's community. Secondly, it is critical that those interested in getting involved be conscious of the problems and their root cause, which confront society as a whole, such as the housing crisis, the healthcare system, the food cost situation. The next generation will be faced with resolving major existential issues and cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. Even their choice of education and careers may have to be geared to dealing with these extremely time-bound problems. How can our future generations be attracted to the instruments of social governance and contribute to the good of their community? Is it through religion, the church, social organizations, and/or volunteerism? There are so many opportunities for community involvement. Citizens from all generations should be encouraged to volunteer with nonprofit community organizations, Volunteer for a political party. Example, working during elections heightens the sense of influence on guidance involvement with the political authorities. And believe it or not, volunteer with local political organizations in communities at various levels. Example, gaining insight into procedures involved and requirements needed to fulfill political ambitions for those interested or ready to run for political offices at the municipal, provincial, state, or federal level. What are the benefits? Volunteer activities ensure that people are united and communities are strengthened and advanced. Participation in political processes helps shape policies and ensure representation from underrepresented communities. Before I close, I want to acknowledge that I am aware, and it is also evident at this conference, that progress has been made in this area with the presence of so many esteemed political and community leaders from Canada, United States, and Africa. Call to action. I leave you with this challenge. Are we, from the silent generation, those born between 1928 to 1946, also known as the traditionalists, the baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, the millennials, or Gen Z? And will we be prepared to engage Gen Alpha, who will be 18 in less than 4 years? Are you ready and willing to enhance our efforts by working together through networking and collaboration to increase community development through political engagement to make the Underground Railroad, towns and settlements an integral part of the political scene? Because we all know that it is vitally important for us to have opportunities to participate in political decision-making processes to effect necessary changes for community development as it relates to the Underground Railroad, towns, and settlements. In closing, I leave you with these quotes. First, by Queen Elizabeth II. It is often the small steps, not the giant steps, that bring about the most lasting change. This one by Oprah Winfrey. Doing the best at this moment puts you in the best place for the next moment. This one, and last but not least, by Martin Luther King Jr. The time is always right to do what is right. It has been an honor to be among such accomplished individuals and to be able to present my perspective on this important task as we move forward together. Thank you.
All right.
Every time I think in the work you start to get tired, I look at people like Miss Betty Thomas and say, I have no right to think I am tired, because she's absolutely right. And just thank you for continuing to do the work, and for all of you to start constructing those roadmaps for us to follow and the roadmaps that we can follow and journey on together. I appreciate that. I'm going to bring Dr. Denise Jackson up next. Denise Jackson has done a lot of work on Canadian Black history in Canada. She's an event manager, live theater, and film festival production in Toronto. She was the CEO of the Toronto Caribbean Carnival, the last summer festival from 2010 to 2018 with an annual economic impact of $400 million on the country's GDP. From 2018 to 2020, she was the Chief of Public Affairs, working on a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage designation for the Carnival. She's a founding member of Caribbean Tales, a multimedia film company that produces the annual Caribbean Tales Film Festival in Toronto, was a board member of Destination Toronto, and Festival and Events Ontario, an organization devoted to the growth and stability of the festival and event industry in the province of Ontario. She was also a member of the Harbourfront Centre Programming Committee, a director of the Caribbean Canadian Literary Expo for Canadian writers, local, regional, and international, and co-produced several commercial theatrical productions in Toronto. As president of her consulting company, she worked as a consultant in several companies in information technology. She's also a graduate of the University of Western Ontario, BA in Honors of Journalism, and York University with a master's degree in environmental resource management. Please welcome Dr. Denise Jackson.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
What I wanted to share with you today, it's going to be one of those easy things. You don't have to listen to my voice, you can read it online, right? That's going to happen. But what I wanted to do is to continue the whole thing about Black history in Canada. But what I'm going to talk about is the interesting part of Black history in Canada. And according to what my belief is that our history refers to our stories, experiences, and accomplishments. And what I wanted to tell you is that Black history did not begin in recent times in Canada, but the ancient times in Africa. People connected to their common African history and ancestry have created the whole story of Black history here. So I talked a bit, just mentioned something about the African Canadian population. And it comprises of people from various places across the globe, including the United States, South America, the Caribbean, Europe, Africa, and Canada. I would say that our present African-Canadian population comprises individuals from various places across the globe, including, as I say, the US, South America, the Caribbean, and one of them, Europe, Africa, and Canada. Well, I want to share a unique story today. I know we were talking about the Black people in Canada, but there is one gentleman who was the first known Black person in Canada. And his name is Matthew Da Costa. He was born in the Azores. He died in 1619. But the most unique thing about him, how did he come here to Canada? And he came here because he was engaged, right? We have that. Okay, so that's great. So yeah, we have all that information. All right. He was first engaged to be a part of the commission with excuse me. He was a party to people who were coming here, some European people coming here. That was the uniqueness about Matthew Da Costa. Here he is. He was just, somebody who had multiple languages and knowledge, and he could come here to Canada, right? To be, switch to the next one, right? Showing where he was, what he was involved. He was a member of an exploring party of Pierre Ducroix, the Sierra de Mont, and Samuel de Champlain. They were traveling from France to the New World in the early 17th century. And he, because of his knowledge and his affinities of having different opportunities to speak different languages, he was part of the New World, as we call it here. And the most important thing about him is that because I think he had an ability with language, he was really, really critical to incorporating the original people here in Canada when this group of people came from the region to Canada to do different activities. So there is a book written about him, and it's something that really and truly is very unique to Canada. And I think in a lot of instances, he was one of the new people when we think about things that are happening to this country. We look at him, he was one of the new people, one of us who came to this country. Now, I'll jump now to what we say in the next one, where what is the African Canadian population right now, which I am one of them. So you would see that the current population comprises individuals, right, from various places across the globe, including the United States, South America, the Caribbean, Europe, Africa, and Canada. So I'm going to, in my presentation, I know we were talking about history, but I wanted to bring, to see how history has pulled information together for now what is going on. So we move away from the past, really past, and I'm now going to present the next one here, a young person called, professor at the University of Waterloo. And we want to see what would be Dr. Christopher Taylor's input into it. And he is, as you can see on the stage there, that he's into diversity, inclusion, and anti-racism. And he was the diversity person in the Ministry of the Attorney General, and he is a senior policy advisor of Ontario's anti-racism. Excuse me, sorry. I've been coughing, but I'm not too bad. You have to take to He has a book now, and I was really intrigued in listening to all of these young people. He has a book called Flying Fish in the Great White North, and this is the autonomous migration of Black natives. And he has his own, you can find him on the X. But what I liked about this, getting some information about him, really was the whole history that he's working on, and he's going to be providing stories of the Black experience in Canada. So he's tying the history of the past and tying it into the knowledge of this time. Okay, twice. Right. Okay. So then there's some other interesting things about this life of this young lady who is a Black equestrian. And she says, despite my memories of childhood happiness, I was here the fact that I was often, if not always, the only Black child in the barn, right? Person of color. And despite that, you would find that there was, she had to go through, integrating with whoever was there other than her. And there was always some kind of feeling of belonging because of her friends, who I'm still close to now, because they were always kind, compassionate, and never racist. There was always already having a blooming and a visual feeling of being the fly in the milk, but she had a cook of her horse. They survived. So, again, we want to look now at how people, at this point in time, we can go to the next one, when we have our Ontario military heritage. Yes, there were a lot of black men who were involved in the War of 1812 and the Second World War, the Cold War, etc. So what I was looking at, right, this whole interesting information about that is that we have done a lot in terms of bringing together people from different countries. And if we have made a decision that we want to be here, we have to get involved, as you can see, in all kinds of activities. And I just want to thank you all just for this quick little thing here. My interest in Black History in Canada, and realized we listen to hear you talking this morning, right? And there are so many different opportunities where we can pull together, all of the different things. Like, okay, we talked about all this stuff that was involved in the carnival here, so we have all kinds of opportunities. We're living here, we are contributing here. And I would say quite boldly, there are certain times that we love being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jackson. What a lot of people don't know is I grew up in Toronto from 1965 to 1975. And I have to tell you, that was my grandparents' highlight, the carnival. And I can remember going to the island. And at that time, I was just telling somebody, everyone used to have those fold-up bicycles at the time. And you would take the ferry over and, it was just a real experience for us, because at the time Toronto was full of people from all kinds of places all over the world. My street was mostly people from the former Yugoslavia, Italy, Greece, but to see that many Black people in one space was just so unusual for me and so very powerful. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for the work that you continue to do. We're next going to bring up Dr. Alvin Simpson, and we have a bio for him. Dr. Alvin Simpson, an antiquarian and curator of Black memorabilia, has dedicated his life to collecting and exhibiting rare artifacts and vintage Black Americana. As Emeritus Professor of Psychology from Alcorn State University, Dr. Simpson's educational background includes a bachelor's degree in psychology from Vanderbilt University, a master's degree in religious education from Duke University, theological studies at Princeton Theological Seminary, and a PhD in counseling and psychology services from Clark Atlanta University. In retirement, he remains a visionary leader, mentor, and life coach, participating in exhibitions to share stories about African Americans' triumphs and tragedies with younger generations. Welcome.
My balance is off this morning. It's okay. Have those mornings. I was told in 2008 by one of my neurosurgeons that I would never walk again. So I learned a lot from that medical diagnosis that God is in control.
Yes.
Yes.
And our Creator.
Yes.
And I'm just grateful this morning to be here. I'm honored and I'm humbled by this invitation to share in this landmark event. I offer special thanks to Ms. Kendra Phipps for inviting me. You know, it's good to be invited up instead of invited down. He who is humble shall be exalted. And this morning, I am responding in that context. And I also applaud the planners of this conference for such an excellent celebration. I've enjoyed every minute since I've been here. And at this time, I would like for you to follow me on the path of the footprints that lead to some of the stolen pages of American history. You have a brochure that shows some of the pages that never hit a history book. Why did they not hit a history book in America? There's so much that's been hidden in our world that needs to be exposed. We may never find all of the stolen pages from American history. My journey as an antiquarian and collector of Black memorabilia began more than a half century ago. I recognized that the image of the African Americans was cast by white culture. Therefore, I sought to understand African American life and culture through collecting Black memorabilia. My collection unveils hidden stories and myths of racial perceptions about African Americans. It exhibits some of the undocumented triumphs and tragedies in the lives of Black Americans. I have amassed a colossal reserve of missing and stolen pages that lifts a veil of secrecy that has been hidden for many years. Presently, this vast collection is on display in Mound Bayou, Mississippi, and I would like to thank Mayor Emeritus Darrell Johnson and his brother, Herman Johnson, for allowing the citizens of Mississippi to see it. It was my fortunate experience to grow up in the pride of the swiftly growing South, Tuskegee, Alabama. Starting at 4 years old, I was afforded an opportunity to frequently visit Gray Columns, a plantation mansion where my Aunt Sarah was employed as a cook. At an early age, I was fascinated with the exquisite objects that I observed in that home. It was this extraordinary experience that ignited my curiosity about becoming an antiquarian. During my formative years in Tuskegee, I visited the George Washington Carver Museum and the monument where Booker T. Washington was lifting the veil of ignorance from a slave on the campus of Tuskegee University. I marveled at the relics that I saw in the home of Booker T. Washington, which was the Oaks. I stood in awesome wonder at Milton Field, where the flying adventure started for the Tuskegee Airmen. I saw a 1941 photograph of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and a plane with pilot Charles Anderson, who was Tuskegee Institute's chief flight instructor. My elementary school was located across the highway from where President Franklin Delano Roosevelt arrived at Chino train station in 1939 to meet George Washington Carver. As a young lad, I witnessed in my hometown the election of Lucius Amerson, who became the first Black sheriff in the South since Reconstruction. Then during my teenage years, I remember the day of Jubilee, when Johnny Ford became the first African-American to be elected mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama.
Yes.
These and other unparalleled experiences inspired me to become a collector and curator of Black memorabilia. In so many ways, I thank my ancestors and the great legends of Tuskegee for their achievements and resilience against great odds. My exposure to both sides of the track created devotion for showcasing the achievements and excellence of Black Americans. My passion for identifying the stolen and missing pages led me to flea markets, antique stores, railroad stores, estate sales, and other venues recommended by other collectors. Some collectors were of color, but most of them were not. Some of the stolen pages that I found were made manifest in trade cards, Black art, postcards, Black caricatures, newspapers, magazines, slavery documents, letters, folk art, Black tin toys, Black dolls, stamps, Black clowns, sheet music, heirlooms, quilts, photographs, and other impressive objects. I became cognizant of the need for our material culture to be in our hands so that we can control the narrative. For me, these relics represented a blueprint for the origin of Black life and culture. Without these objects, our history would be more complex. I saw these objects as leftover remnants of people's lives, and I didn't want my folks living to be in vain. Like ghosts of the Jim Crow past, these collectibles are still a reminder of how insidious racism is etched in American culture. I surmised that collecting was a way of celebrating the victories won by those who suffered for the color of their skin. With great boldness, I contend that we must tell our stories because white America has a perpetual insecurity about the truth being exposed. Collecting Black memorabilia contributes to racial literacy and helps to separate fact from fiction. African Americans did not receive a cordial invitation to America. Our Black ancestors were kidnapped and brought to America forcibly. They came empty-handed. They were robbed of language and native culture, forbidden to be African, and never allowed to be first-class American citizens. They were bound by chains, brutalized, ostracized, treated as animals, and sold like animals. They were denied freedom. There was no access to education. There was no opportunity for the pursuit of happiness. It was unlawful for Blacks to be exposed to book learning and the skills of reading and writing because knowledge would lead to a desire for freedom. It is a mystery how Black people survived the barbarous institution of slavery, especially when all of the roads to freedom had been sabotaged and all of the bridges to learning had been destroyed. Blacks were relegated to the rear and called color, nigger, splib, porch monkey, and other abasing adjectives. Being Black in America was considered a genetic phenomenon because of the color of one's skin or the texture of one's hair. Blacks have been viewed as lazy, unreliable, and criminal in behavior. A Black person was regarded as a shuffling, happy-go-lucky, banjo-picking, dancing darky whose sole gastronomical delights were watermelon, possum, and chicken. However, while the slaves worked in the hot cotton fields, hope and faith were born. They looked beyond their immediate enslavement and translated hope out of their existential situation. Here is where the Negro spirituals were born, which depicted the slave's life story. From the spirituals, they dreamed dreams, declared visions, uttered despair, and prophesied victories. So here we are in the 21st century, and curious minds want to know, what is the relevance of digging up and collecting relics from yesteryear? They want to know, why can't we strike a match and burn the Confederate flag and melt down the Confederate monuments and bury those stereotypical racist objects? These critics conclude that public displays of these objects can incite anger, frustration, and violence. While their proposition might have some merit, it is for certain that those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. In 1712, a blue-eyed devil named Willie Lynch was invited to the Virginia colony by slave owners. They wanted advice on how to control their slaves. He said, "I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. It is guaranteed to control them for at least 300 years. Lynch had a divide-and-conquer strategy. He instructed them to use fear, distrust, and envy. Pitch the old black male against the young black male. Use the dark-skinned slaves against the light-skinned. Use the female against the male. Have the white servants as overseers and order them to distrust all blacks. Make the slaves depend on the slave master. They must love, respect, and trust white folk only." And by the way, the term lynching is derived from his name. So starting in 1830, a white comedian in New York created the first blackface character known as Jim Crow. This was the birth of racial stereotypes and minstrel shows. The comedian darkened his face with burnt cork, painted with exaggerated lips and woolly black hair, and took the stage. Minstrel shows became popular and were designed to entertain white audiences while degrading African Americans. The cliche, "sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me," we should say it as kids, is not true. Name calling can hurt. Images and words are very powerful. The N-word has precipitated many acts of physical violence in America. I don't know about here in Canada.
Yes, absolutely.
When a black person is called Sambo or Uncle Tom, it is offensive and insulting, because these characters were regarded as simple-minded during slavery and in present day. There were 4 stereotypes for female African Americans: Mammy, Aunt Jemima, Sapphire, and Jezebel. Then there was this black lawn jockey. It's another prevailing stereotype. Just like the Confederate flag, the black lawn jockey is a celebrated relic of racist imagery and stereotypes. This iconography continues to insult and defame Black Americans. Following the Emancipation Proclamation, many Southern African Americans grew and sold watermelons, and it became a symbol of freedom. However, Southern whites made it symbolize a feast for laziness to shame Black watermelon merchants. While the stereotype was pejorative during slavery, our ancestors were very smart, the Black folk figured out that watermelon was a source of hydration while they toiled in the hot cotton fields. It can be argued convincingly that stereotypes of African Americans still exist in the 21st century. Some contemporary incidents of racial stereotypes were noted in the killing of George Floyd, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor, and the list goes on. But racism is not the real issue. How we respond to racism is the issue. And it's not what folk call you, it's what you answer to. See, sometimes we answer to the wrong thing. Collecting Black memorabilia and establishing more African American museums can provide more opportunities to have conscious conversations and teachable moments about the Black experience. We must understand how the story is told and by whom it is told. It is imperative that we prepare our Black youth for success. They must walk in truth. We need a call to action so that future generations are equipped with the knowledge and vision to compete in a diverse and complex society. Too many young people are exposed to inaccurate information about American history, Canadian history, through mainstream media and popular culture. Now is the time to celebrate the untaught and undocumented history. Our enslaved Black ancestors were not just brought to America as field hands and house servants. The captives abducted doctors of medicine, textile experts, sculptors, musicians, orators, ironworkers, engineers, architects, mathematicians, and other uniquely skilled individuals who helped to build the greatest nation in the world. And lastly, in closing, I would like to paraphrase some questions and a vision of Margaret Burroughs. What shall I teach my children who are Black? Of what it means to be captive in this dark skin. What shall I tell my dear ones of how beautiful they are when everywhere they turn, they're faced with abhorrence of everything that is Black. The night is Black, and so is the boogeyman. Villains are Black with Black hearts. A Black cow gives no milk. A Black hen lays no eggs. Bad news comes bordered in Black. Morning clothes Black. Storm clouds Black. Black is evil, and evil is Black, and devil's food is Black. What shall I tell my dear ones raised in a white world, a place where white has been made to represent all that is good and pure and fine and decent, where clouds are white and dolls, and heaven surely is a white place, with angels robed in white, and cotton candy, and ice cream, and milk, and ruffled Sunday dresses, and dream houses, and long sleek Cadillacs, and angels' food is white, all white. What can I say, therefore, when my child comes home in tears because a playmate has called him Black, big-lipped, flat-nosed, and nappy-headed? What will he think when I dry his tears and whisper, that's true, you are, but no less beautiful. What can I do to give him strength that he may come through life's adversities as a whole human being in a world of biased laws and inhuman practices? For who knows, perhaps this Black child bears the genius to discover the cure for cancer or to chart the course for exploration of the universe. I have drunk deeply from the fountain of my Black culture. I have sat at the knee and learned from Mother Africa, discovered the truth of my heritage, and I find I have much to say to my Black children. I will lift up their heads in proud Blackness with the story of their father and their father's father. And I will take them into a way back time of kings and queens who ruled the Nile.
Yes, sir.
And measured the stars and discovered the laws of mathematics.
Yes, sir.
And their heritage shall be their weapon and armor. I must find truth about my heritage and pass it on to them. My children and their children's children will venerate me, for it is the truth that makes us free.
Thank you so much, Dr. Simpson, and I want to thank God for continuing to bless you. And you go back and you tell your doctors, you're not just walking, you're running. Oh, amen. Beautiful, beautiful. We've talked a lot about what happens when other people are telling our stories and how that can just be more than wrong. I just want to share a little story I was mentioning to Wanda last night. We have a massive agency that has their garage less than 2 kilometers from our museum. And as I mentioned to you, we have no transportation to our museum. So this year I invited that travel agency to bring their interpreters bring them to us. We want to know why you're not coming to us. We want to know how we can get you in here, bringing people in here. In front of 7 elders, after we gave our presentation, 36 interpreters from ambassadors sat there. And one of the women said to us, you know, we tell our clients, no matter what the people of Africville did all week long, they went to church on Sunday. What does that imply? I'm like, you don't say that, do you? We have no idea what people are saying out there about us. And that message goes so far beyond Nova Scotia into other parts of the world. And you can't change it. You can't bring it back because you don't even know it's out there. So important to know who's telling our story, how they're telling our story. Let us tell our story. At this time, I'd like to bring Dr. Bemge, the author of Is Servant Leadership Vital for Organizational Success? He is also a certified executive coach and accomplished international business executive with 20 plus years of experience across the USA, Africa, and the Middle East. He is the WCM Vice President for Africa, Director of the John Smith Leadership Institute, and Dean of Business at Osuri University. As a former General Motors market analyst for Africa and Middle East and USED Senegal program coordinator, he is a specialist in identifying barriers to market development and promoting trade. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Now you see me using my bag. You say, where's it going? No, I actually just wanted to show it. Because this was made just 4 weeks ago while I was visiting Senegal. And it is custom made.
Yes, sir.
By just a local artisan.
Love that.
I went there, told him what I wanted, he made it. He made one is twice this size. I said, no, this might be too small. He said, okay, I can do it like 2 sides. We can see it a bit double or a different color. And I said, you know what, sometimes I travel. I want something bigger. He also created another one.
Wow.
This was made by table. It's a 3-piece. I don't want to take it off, but you can see it's 3 pieces. You know, and this is what they're doing right now. Yes, I wrote this book. It's Servant Leadership Vital for Organizational Success. But I'm not going to talk about the book because I know that I have in front of me not only leader but servant leader. I have nothing to teach you about servant leadership because that's what you do every day. And I think you just look at Dr. Simpson. What he just delivered, the passion, what he keep doing with all the challenges, because he's a servant leader. He's known that he's here to serve. I'm Muslim, but Christ said, I am sent to myself to serve. And everyone who was need to be ready to be last and to be served all. The teaching of Christianity, of Judaism, of Islam, our Prophet Muhammad said, Sayyidul Qawm Hadimuhu. Wherever he's serving the people, he's a leader. I did my research on organizational leadership. And if any of you that have read about leadership, they talk about classical theory, contemporary theory,
the threat approach, the behavior approach, they talked about the contingency. Then at the end of the day, you walk away having over 70 different models and approach. And when I teach to students, my question is, what are the takeaways from the student? What happened if the student said, hey, Dr. Mac, I want to improve my leadership. What do I need to do? You gave me 70 different approaches and models. Who do I start? That's when I felt the need to put something very simple. As you can tell, English is my third language. I have to keep it simple. And I remember in 1989, just dated myself, I had my first master in business management in Senegal, French-speaking country. I came to my dad. I said, Dad, I'm done. And he said, yes. But he said, yes, you have worked with the government, the private sector. And I was given a scholarship to go to France to do a PhD. I said, Dad, I'm not going to France. He said, oh, where are you going? I said, I'm going to America. He chuckled to himself. He said, is it insane? He said, oh, do you speak English? I said, no. Okay. Do you have money to get it? I said, no. Oh, but do you know anyone there? I said, no. He called my mom. He said, I think your son is insane. You need to talk some sense to him. And she was panicking because I knew that what I wanted to do and what I was searching, the path for solution to our people, couldn't come from those that enslaved us, colonized us, controlled us, and claimed to teach us to liberate us. That's when I said that now my solution could not come from France. I have to try something else. But I said, you know what, Dad, why do you know why I want to go to America? He said, yes, please enlighten me. I said, I have family. He looked at me again and started laughing. He said, you have family in America? Father, I don't know. And he looked at me and said, is it from your mother's side? Something that I'm not aware of? I said, no, I have family in America. He said, who's your family? I said, African American. He paused. He said, you have a point. That's when I made the journey to come to America. In '89, with a master in business management, couldn't work anywhere in the continent and had to start all over again. I remember going to Michigan University, 6 guard at night. And when night come, I need to close all the exits, the rooms, and begging the students to allow me to close it because it's midnight. They would curse me out, calling me ignorant. We want to go. I didn't know that I would have a master, but I was speaking in English. But the reason I'm bringing all of that is what has been said throughout the last 2 days about fear. We should be dreaming, yes, but we shouldn't fear the dream. But this is what got me here. Today, I'm the Vice of Mayor, Dean of Missouri University, by the way, a free university, where we have 2 master's programs for free, technology, sustainable business, created under the leadership of Professor John Carroll, and other African-American and African professors that decided that we want to level the playing field. Now, we're not getting paid as professors, but today, in my leadership class, I have over 95 students from more than 20 African countries, people from India, from all over the world. They are getting an American degree, and guess how much they're paying every year? $300 for the registration. That's it. And you get a master's program. The reason I brought up going to the university and what I heard about the trial, what I want to talk about is a game changer. It is about strategy. But strategy, when the game, the rules are rigged, and you want to compete with those that have designed it, by the rule, of course, 100 battles, 100 losses. But some say, still just, you need to understand yourself, understand your enemy, but understand also the situation. If you do that, 100 battles, 100 win. And I think we are in a path where we can now apply what the rail, what you call it, the trail, underground railroad, is about strategy, but it is about game change strategy. She was rewriting the rules about how do we fight, how do we escape, and setting up codes, secrecy. And that's what we need to do there. Exactly. If you can show that, I'm going to talk about some ideas about Africa, because when I said Africa, I just talked about people of African descent in general. But the battle today, there are several battlegrounds, but there must be one everywhere. But the one that we have right now, it's rival. We have them on the run. It's those that follow African politics. You know that recently in April, the youngest African president has been elected. President Jomai Jahar Faye. And he was jailed for over a year just by posting that our justice system is rigged, which was true. And they put him in jail. His leader, the leader of the party, Sonko, because he was going to win the election, they decided to accuse him of rape, which was all made up, put him in jail. Guess what? God is God. 10 days before the election, they liberated both of them, and one was able to be on the ballot, Thomas Sonko, that today is the president. He left prison 10 days, then now he's the presidential house. What is happening right now in the continent? It's really, we have a new generation. They are well educated, Pan-Africanists, but also servant leaders, because they are willing to give up everything. These two men, the Prime Minister, Sonko, and the President, Jomai Faye, they were fired from a high government position once they decided that they want to run for president. Their account was blocked. They couldn't even survive, but what made them survive is that the diaspora, the Senegalese diaspora, decided we will support you. They sent money that the government had never seen. They had to ban the power. The point I mean is that when we come together, when we work together, and when I say working together, was that we are Senegalese and American citizens. I had to talk to my senator, I had to talk to the Congress. We had to make the fight here in DC. Anytime the magistrate, the president comes to DC, we were outside writing, not necessarily writing, but announcing what he's doing and educating. Somebody talk about orientation, training, education. I think that's what we need to do if we want to get it done. Because today is no longer the past. We have learned from the past. The past is strengthening us. But going forward, what can we do? Let's go quickly. I'm just going to share with you. And for whoever is interested, it is in Amazon. You have no PowerPoint? You cannot. That's okay. What we are doing today is basically for those that know about the Africa Agenda 2063. Their vision is to create an integrated and prosperous and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens, representing a dynamic force in the international arena. And today we have the unique opportunity to make that happen. And look at some of the key goals of that vision: high standard of living, well-educated citizen, health and well-nourished citizen, transform economy, modern agriculture, blue ocean economy, environmental sustainable and climate resilient economy, world-class infrastructure, strong financial institution, good governance. This is what we are trying to do in the continent. And Agenda Africa 2063 is achievable. It is doable. But the only way it's going to happen is when the diaspora work with people in the continent. When we work together, because all we're trying to do, there are some missing education, just imagine if we leverage the history of black colleges and universities, just see how that can transform having access. We are one university, Brazil University. We were launched this year. We're going to be training hundreds this year in technology and sustainable business. Just imagine if you can train 1,000, 10,000, giving them American degree. Now, as you know, that lately it's difficult for African, even if you're admitted, to get the visa to come and study. Now, once you make it to the United States or to Canada, it is so expensive that we can't even do it. What we are doing is saying every African student, anyone that's already in the United States, if you want to apply to a university, all you have to give us your home country. Doesn't matter if you were here. Give us your home country, we register you as a foreign student, and you'll be able to get an American degree. Education is key, but as is transfer of technology. There's so many. We are working as a partner for local of mayor with the National Business League, top African American businesses. We're working with the National Black Chamber of Commerce. Those are American companies that are very successful. If we can get them to come and invest in the continent. But the key is also we need to train our people that if Google go to Africa, they can find a very skilled workforce that can do the job. And I will tell you, just as what I'm wearing, these African youth, they are so talented.
Yes.
And what I see today is that they are so proud of who they are. We always want to believe, but these kids, they want to change the world, and they believe they can do it. But we need each other. This whole conference is about collaborating. It goes back to the Ubuntu, philosophy, principle. I am because we are. We are because I am. Our humanity. That is what the world needs today. And in the same way that Africa has took the lead for a long time, if humankind survive, we should thank the Africa, because the Africa were the first to be on this earth. They had to strategize to find a way to deal with nature, to deal with animals, to organize, to create agriculture. Technology, most of this technology you see today, if you go to Benin and you see those statues that were built, it's just unbelievable. You go to Egypt, and by the way, I went to Egypt. I went in front of Ramses. And they call them sometimes Arab call them, but Ramses look like you and I. You can see this guy is a black guy. He's no Arab. He's no mate. He's a black guy. And these are the ones that rule this world. The one that today they cannot explain how they were able to build this pyramid. Of course, they say extraterrestrials can build it. But just to tell you how advanced we were and how advanced we can become if we work together. In closing, I just want to remind something that, first, let me tell you some of the flagship, how much time do I have? Some of the flagship project of Agenda 2063. This project, I worked on this project in 2005. They were a long time ago. But no one want to fund it because they know that it's a game changer. An integrated high-speed train network in the continent. This project was the drawing board. We know exactly how much it's going to cost. I worked in a formulation of an African commodity strategy. Not that today called tea. Everything that the price is decided outside of Africa. And we are the main product. If today we decide the pricing in the country have a commodity, it's a game changer. The African free trade, today it exists. But we still have head of state that are very shy to make it happen. An African passport. And we have to agree when we talk about African passport, we talk about people of African descent. One passport, one currency. It is doable. First of all, we need to silence the guns. We let others come and manipulate us. Sell us what? Both sides, and we kill each other. And the same thing happened in our NSA. where we're killing each other. We need to silence the gun. We have what we call the implement of the Great Dam project. 43,000 megawatts of power. We can electrify the entire continent from the Congo River. Those are huge opportunity. You know, financial institution. It's a depend on the World Bank or the IMF. I always say to people that the World Bank or the IMF, they are banks. There is not a country in the world that has developed through the help of the World Bank or the IMF. It doesn't happen. Why do you think they're going to help us? Those are the kind of institutions that the African American, the Africans should create their own institution. Not just long ago, about 2 years ago, a year ago, I believe. They find $13 trillion worth of gold in Uganda. Yes. Worth of gold. If they can have their own currency, backed by gold, we will collapse the international financial system in 24 hours. And I'm talking about one country, Uganda. Now you talk about Ghana. Just imagine one currency backed by gold. The euro cannot replicate it. The dollar cannot replicate it. No one can replicate it. We will have the strongest currency in the world. Those are things that are accessible, but we need to work together. And we need to learn from our past and understand that they have divided for so long. You know, this whole movement to return to the country. I just spoke with my brother-in-law. He told me that these days I'm getting a lot of people. He's had the whole country. He said many Americans are selling their homes in Houston, in Atlanta, and moving to Ghana. They are starting, he said, every month I will have at least 5 African Americans moving to Ghana and start this experience that we have here. And open that up. And if we work together, we will be able to get it done. I'm just going to close on some warning from one of my strategy professor. His name is Alan Afua. He's the Dean of the International Business at the University of Michigan. He wrote a book on game change strategy. But he's talked about when it comes to the African continent, you know, that the failure, he said, to understand the radical transformation. What is required and you want to use to incremental change, it will fail. We cannot afford to do incremental change. We need to do radical transformation. But he said also the literature of radical innovation suggests that there are 4 traps that we need to keep in mind. Say the temptation to focus on investment rather than learning. We run toward this bank, but first we need to acquire the skill, the education, the knowledge. Let's start getting the right knowledge. The lack of emphasis on type of people and the role they should play. We should choose carefully our leaders. The temptation to forget about in-person interaction. We need to interact with each other. But also, he said the biggest challenge is not letting go of the past. Sometimes, in order to learn, you must unlearn. But unlearning is very painful. But he said, we also need to keep 4 things in mind. Take into consideration the differences between the context in which we work is important. If we take technology from America to Africa, let's understand the context and let's adapt them. Secondly, keep in mind that technology innovation usually goes with non-technological innovation. In Kenya, what they use phone to do banking, the technology was there, but had this idea that if we do that, we get people to do banking, they don't have bank account, and everyone is doing business. Most of the business, the people that were excluded to the rural area, they can do instant banking. They just being included. And he said that innovation is about learning from other countries, from other customers, from competitors, and one mistake. He said the institution, other people, the last one, that will stand to lose of this innovation will do whatever they can to fight it. We should get that. We must be prepared. Thank you.
Word, radical transformation and the right knowledge. This has already been an extremely powerful morning. And I think we all heard something there today that we've never heard before. What a game changer. What a game changer. Yesterday we talked about solutions. We started to talk about solutions, where we are today and what are some of the solutions to get us to the next point. I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Katia Roberts, South African representative of the Federation. Dr. Roberts, former medical anthropological explorations in various countries, Rotary International leadership, being raised by a mother in diplomatic service for the South African Embassy in Paris, and as a Babuan father who was a metallurgist and theologian, traveling all over the continent to educate Africans on how to refine their own gold independently from industry controlling giants, brought new insights to her with regards to diplomacy. Dr. Roberts obtained her PhD from the Commonwealth University in Spain, her integrative medicine and medical education. Her thesis involved reviewing the WHO's global research and how natural and holistic medicine is integrated in healthcare systems, tertiary education, rural areas, and grassroots communities around the world. Please welcome Dr. Katia Roberts.
Thank you all. I'm really honored to be amongst all of you and all these beautiful, insightful stories. And I first off want to say, I'm coming here with you, towards you with utmost humility first. I mean, as you can see, I'm predominantly Caucasian, right? And this is where the talk starts. First, I just want to connect with you on a soul level and just apologize. Apologize for all the wrongdoings and the oppression of part of my people. And I tell you this, and I'll tell you where this started for me, where this awakening started for me, and then my spiritual, psychosomatic approach and in-depth psychology approach to the coaching that I do, the healing work that I do around oppression and abuse, which is broad spectrum, regardless of who the oppressor, the perpetrator is, right? So it started, before I learned of my lineage, of how we came to South Africa, which I found out my sister did our family tree, and I learned that my 9th great grandmother came, whose name was also ripped from her, and she was given a Dutch name, Grete Katrein, and she was brought to the Cape of Good Hope on an Indian slave ship, so she was from South India. So that's how my family lineage came to South Africa. But before I learned this, I went to Robben Island, and I was there. I took my French family, who I only learned later I have a different biological father, so I was raised by my Zimbabwean dad. They came to South Africa. So I took them to Robben Island, and we went through, and this is before I learned about my heritage. And I wasn't there, and there was one of the slave descendants, no, actually one of the original, in prison, the prison mates, was doing the tour. And again, I had this moment of reconciliation in the sense of, I was so moved by the stories he told, right, as a white person. I broke down. I broke down in tears. And I begged for his forgiveness. I said, I'm really sorry for what my people have done to you, right? And he was surprised. He was very surprised. He actually didn't know what to do with this exchange. This is what I want to offer to you. Yesterday when we spoke, I spoke to Ms. Peters when they were saying about these tours, right? This is what I do in Africa like Dr. Simmons was talking about, Simon was talking about, I lead spiritual tourist pilgrimages to Egypt. And a lot of individuals come to me because they want to reclaim themselves, reclaim their power, birth their own power. They want to find out their heritage. And like you said, I do a lot of work in Nubia. Nubians is the traditional Egyptian people, Black people. So, I facilitate this healing approach, right? So I was offering that we see this as a pilgrimage instead of a tour. It's a pilgrimage, a healing journey of reclamation, of reframing from the narratives, and how do we take our own power back? How do we birth our own power where we rewrite the story? Because you may touch, and this is why telling your stories in your way is so important in a healing environment where people can actually hear it and receive it, where it's not forced on them, because the person needs to be able to hear it and to own it, right? So it's to create that healing environment. So for them to come to Afriville, railroad, Bustler, actually experience it as a pilgrimage. I'm not talking just about the black folk, I'm talking about the white people need to come here also and experience this. So they could be true sharing of stories and seeing how these, just that leaflet that we were just giving out. It's like when I was in the museum yesterday, I was brought to tears seeing the mockery, right? Even me growing up in South Africa, I was brought up in an Afrikaans school, all white, right? The history I was told wasn't the correct history. I was seeing what was happening to the people around me and how they were mistreated. Luckily, I was brought up in a Christian home. It's like we treat everyone the same way, regardless of their color and background. But I saw firsthand, growing up in apartheid, how this was, how these monstrosities, and again, I was protected of it. I didn't even see it fully. I had to come and study abroad, and even when I went to study in London, I was labeled as, because I'm white, I was labeled as a racist. And I'm like, but so I was labeled, even though this has not been my experience and how I view and see it. And my healing work has been around abuse and oppression in all scenarios, because I'm also healing from abuse and oppression in a different way. So I'm working on empowering individuals on how to step into their power when the oppressor is not willing or able to own that. To own that and take that responsibility upon themselves. So what do we do, like not relying on that ownership or that acknowledgement? Like, what if we can't get that acknowledgement from them, right? I'm giving you an acknowledgement because it's my individual journey that has led me to this place. But others may not give that to you. So how can we educate and support to empower from this place of suffering to get to a place where we don't need those people to approve, acknowledge, so that we claim it, right? Or you claim it and you live it, and you in that place of powerful. And again, here's very great individuals with mentorship programs. I was talking to Dr. Gerald last night. He has a great, millionaires, Captain Millionaires program that just with re-education, is that retraining, re-education of stepping back in your own power and going on a pilgrimage and experiencing is that healing journey, that the hero's journey of self-emancipation and reclamation and freedom. So I just wanted to offer that. And then, also how do you feel about more individuals like myself being able to engage in this way, in a healing way with you, so that this true exchange of hearing each other from each other's perspective can happen in a facilitated, safe container, because that's it. Just everyone gets vulnerable, and that's what a pilgrimage is about. We come from a place of humility and vulnerability, and expressing our experiences. Because if we come from that place, instead of just blaming and shaming both sides, then we can really meet each other at that place of true healing. So I just wanted to offer that up as a different perspective, and if you ever wanted to come and experience your Kemetic roots, you know, in Egypt, I mean, this is my spiritual work, this is my soul journey, what God asked me to do, to help people reclaim their sovereignty, their power, their freedom, and, you know, be able to do God's work in the world. So, thank you. And I hope to see you all next year in Bermuda. And because I live in Bermuda now, I mean, I still travel back home and have family back home in South Africa. But yes, thank you all, and I hope to stay in touch with you. Oh, I have to go to Corin. I'm going to the airport now, so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roberts. And I want to say, you don't know what you know. For those of you who are Canadian, you of course know who Viola Desmond is because she's on the $10 bill. For folks who are from the US, look at your $10 bill. That's Viola Desmond, the only Black woman to be ever on our currency. The eve before Viola Desmond was, we're going to call it the pardon because that's what everybody calls it. I held a talk at Dalhousie University Law School, and the talk was entitled, "Is Justice Ever Too Late?" And we had a number of people debating whether or not Viola Desmond gets a pardon for something she never did wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. Why would she be given a pardon? And during that event, towards the end of the event, this white man stood up and he told this story. He said, when I was a little boy, I grew up in Truro, Nova Scotia, and I used to love playing baseball. And I had two young fellows who were my very, very good baseball friends, two young Black fellows. And he said, every once in a while, my great uncle would give me a dime for bringing in his wood, and my grandfather would give me a quarter. And you know, he said, in those days, for 25 cents, you could go to the little diner downtown, and you could get a whole plate of fries with gravy and an ice cream float. And I said to my buddies, you guys, you want to go share a plate of fries? He said, and my buddies would always say no. What I didn't know, and he started crying, is that my little friends were not allowed in that restaurant in Truro. He said, I never knew that. And he cried, and he said, had I known that, I would never have bought those fries. I think that's an important acknowledgement of things that happen around us. And if you don't know, you don't know, right? And so a lot of people found themselves, you know, in companies, in organizations, en route to things that were not supportive of people or others. I also want to mention that as a result of that conversation, Viola Desmond did not get pardoned. As we often say, what Viola Desmond actually received posthumously was the Royal Derogatory of Mercy pardon, which means you didn't do anything wrong. So that's very important to know. She was, yes, given that by our very first Black Lieutenant Governor, Mayanne Francis, from Whitney Pier, Nova Scotia. Your neck of the woods. Yes. And there it is, Viola Desmond. Right? Can I keep this? I'm going to invite Mayor Johnson up now to introduce our next speaker.
before she's gonna play a song. It's not gonna, we just go ahead, it's just not gonna work. Okay.
Children, follow drums and birds ripped early, majesty at his feet. Birds ripped early, majesty at his feet. Last words whispered to another's heart, as shouts to my children. Ever follow drums indeed. Sit as turn. These words I still see. These words I still hear. It was a system of hate that laid you down. Blood raining from your body like lightning hits in clouds, and your blood rains in my memory. Like the color of the clouds. I defy the system that made the cow, that pulled the trigger, that caused you not to leave. The system of hate still haunts the ones you call your own. I defy the system with my spirit, flesh, and bone. I slay the system with my tongue, actions, and deeds. I stand tall, helping black people walk on their knees. Kissing the system leads to degrees of filthy ignorance in the form of handouts and black face. While white faces show false pride with inside and hide behind white lines.
All right. Hello. Get the microphone. You got the microphone? All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. You are here. I want to present to you a former councilman of Jackson, Mississippi, who did his thing all throughout the council and worked hard for Jackson, Mississippi. He also became a state representative. He also didn't stop right there. He is a man who said, I want to serve my state. And because of it, he ran for public service commissioner. And in a red state, he turned that thing blue because everybody loved this man. He's a husband, he is a daddy, and his name is the Keep the Steps of Mississippi.
Oh, Mayor Johnson. Boy, I tell you, if it wasn't for friends, I don't know what I had. That's amazing. Rocky song. Okay. Well, I bring greetings from a very wonderful town called Learning, Mississippi. Population 97. That's right. There's about 50 folks right over this side of the building in my hometown. I want to first give honor to God for giving all the grace to be here. It's amazing to travel all over the world. We have ambassadors, we have heads of state, we have our first executive director. We appreciate Mr. Coward for his work, the mayor of this city, my mentor and one of our co-founders, Mayor Johnny Ford, Ambassador Johnny Ford, for the work they've done over the years, and all this together. As this grows and grows and grows, it's just amazing to me looking to the future of what we can become and create. The food is just God and people. sustained us a long way. And I want to start off this talk with the Mississippi story. Now, just as that song that Owen played earlier, the Mississippi story has had some ups and downs, but Mississippi's future is bright. I've had several people come to me, Barry, one of them, saying, I never thought to come to Mississippi. Actually, I feared coming to Mississippi. Well, the fear should no longer be, because just as our representatives from the Mississippi delegation have shown to you, that Mississippi is warm and welcoming and inviting. Mississippi's changed. We're not just that small window of time. When you go to the Mississippi History Museum, the first stop says that people came up that river 15,000 years ago. 15,000 years ago, when they first created the mounds that the city of Mount Bayou is named after. 15,000 years ago. We can't just lock ourselves into these windows of time. We must create the next window for the future. See, in a place like Mississippi, when Mississippi changes, the world changes. Mississippi's changing for the better. Our election proved it. I also tell you, our election proved it. That Mississippi's changing. You got white folks and black folks, Democrats and Republicans working together in a way as never before. Look at the work we've done taking down our flag. Now, this is a majority white and Republican legislature and a Republican government. Took the Confederate flag down, placed it in the museum, given it its proper place, but birthed a new rallying symbol for our state to rally around. It's created new energy in Mississippi because symbols matter. And when everyone can participate in the symbol, in its birth, its creation, you can run behind it. I see more Mississippi flags flying now than I've ever seen in my life. Mississippi is moving forward. And as Mississippi can move forward, you have no excuse. No matter where you're from, if Mississippi can move forward for the greater good of our world, Mississippi is moving forward. We got sworn into office July the 4th of this year. And within 10 days, the global economy shifted because Mississippi moved forward. Within 10 days of our nation, we were in the governor's mansion all night for several nights negotiating a $10 billion investment from Amazon Web Services right in our district. Because Amazon saw that, hold on, Mississippi is moving forward. Mississippi has a stable place for the future for their economy. There's going to be a $10 billion data center right up the road. The next week, we get another several $billion operation. And the next week, we did the same thing, right out the gate. I had a grand vision of creating 10,000 jobs over the course of my term, working with them. We created 10,000 jobs in the first 30 days. Taking every idea you scratched on a piece of paper, everything you thought of over your time in service, and said, what can you do? What can I do? What can we do? Together. So I say to you, God and good people. This is for me. But good people must protect themselves in such a time as this, where you got bad people, loud people, all around, of all different races, textures, and colors. Good people got to stick together. Good people got to stay good people. Organizations like this and gatherings like this help us say, okay, how can I be better? How can I develop the friendships and relationships that keep me good? Because as our journey in leadership goes on, you must have other leaders to lean on. Because as many of you know, leadership is lonely. When you get to the places that ambassadors and heads of foreign nations get to, you may not have anybody to call locally, just to vent to. But the folks in this room, you can call, talk to, and network with, and build the strength necessary to go back to your community and continue to lead. I've used this organization to build my phase in life over the last 15 years. The relationships in this room have allowed me to grow. It's benefited my family, it's benefited my profession, and my community, all because of relationships. So I say to you, foster as many healthy relationships as you can to continue to move forward. Now I'm gonna end on a note. My charge was to talk about community building. Well, in Mississippi, we focus on family. Because without healthy families, there will be no healthy community. With dysfunction in the home, there will be no functional neighborhood. You'll just have a group of dysfunctional people. Now, I'm not one for trying to come up with something new. Miss Nancy Helen Burroughs, you passed a piece of paper out. Y'all can pick this piece of paper up, please. Yeah. Back in 1928, she traveled the country. Ladies on the dais, we are four in the back. Ladies on the dais. She wrote this speech, and she traveled all across America. If you read through this paper, it seems as though she wrote this in 2024. It says the 12 things that the so-called Negro must do for himself, not for other people, for himself. We must teach our children to put first things first, develop education, character traits, a trade, and home ownership. Let's not expect things to be given to them, and take personal responsibility and accountability for the things they can do for themselves. We should teach our children to keep themselves, their children, their homes clean and make the surroundings in which they live comfortable and attractive. This is 1928. We should teach our children to dress appropriately for women. We should teach our children to make their religion an everyday practice, not just a Sunday go-to-meeting emotional affair. Yes. We must teach our children to learn as a member the basic elements required for good citizenship and to help others to do the same. We must teach our children not to blame others for their failures, i.e. charging up their color or white people's attitudes. We must teach our children to avoid taking on bad job habits, tardiness, absenteeism, loafing, loud talking, carelessness, just plain bad habits. We should teach our children to respect others by conducting themselves properly and respectfully in public spaces. We must teach our children how to operate a business for anyone who wants their product not of their race. We should teach our children to understand the value and importance of humility. Lastly, we should teach our children to always remember your friends. Now, this was 1928. I bring this around so much when I talk about community building, because if we could just get these 12 things right. Now, I have brought a prize. Now, everyone has the paper there. Count up how many you personally has the highest number, I got a gold coin for you. And if you don't want to say your number, ma'am, please come here. You got all 12 on? You got 13, okay. Pass one out, baby. I want to embarrass anybody. Pass one out to So this coin is from the Mississippi Public Service Commission. And it denotes our office, what we do. But more importantly, I want to leave with you that we're here to help. The utility space is critical. Because you may ask, what's the most amazing thing you can do in your community? Utilities. Affordable and reliable lights, water, natural gas services, telecommunications. Because as we look at all the infrastructure of our communities, look at how you can better govern them, grow them, make them more effective. Because that's the avenue of the future. If you don't have proper water and sewer, just that one right there, there are folks that live in our communities that have third world conditions just with water and sewer. But then you must have stable electrical. You must have natural gas service. Because in many of our areas, the electrical grid is so poor that how will you heat your homes in the wintertime if you don't have natural gas? And soul food just tastes better on the gas stove. When my cooks, I'm just saying, just from my experience, I'm not a cook, but I'm a professional. Proper cellular phone service, broadband technology. These basic fundamental elements are necessary for us to move forward. If our communities don't have them, the community will not move forward. Because the young people are not buying houses in houses that don't have high-speed internet. So one of the biggest threats we have, since most of our wealth is tied up in the value of our homes, and nobody wants to buy homes, not even our own children, that means our wealth will dissipate quickly. So these utility services across our world must be better. Develop city relationships with cities who are solving your problems on the utility space. Lean on those in this space, because I know we're not the flashy office in the state. But the utility office is where the economic development starts. Because we wouldn't have got a $10 billion Amazon plant if the light bill hadn't been negotiated. Economic development starts in utilities. And many communities do not have the effective utilities, and we must get them. There's no fairy utility godmother that's going to sprinkle dust in our communities. We must focus our local leadership on getting the utilities in order so that there will be economy, but there will be no economy where you don't have effective utilities. No economy for the future. So I close with this, since I'm standing between lunch. The formula is God and good people. That's the formula. We speak all the time, what should we do? What could we do? Good people. Go find some good people, no matter where you are in the world. White, black, whatever political affiliation you are, good people.
I found them right now, right here.
Yes, ma'am. Good people. Develop those relationships. Because sometimes the good people that you need may not look like you. And sometimes the bad people that you don't need to work with look like you. Now, we've done some amazing things in Africa. our history. You know, the Mali Empire, Mansa Musa, Abukari Kita, who chartered 400 vessels to come across the waters. Amazing things there. Europeans have done things in Europe, but in America, it's taken all of us. It's taken all of us. And now it's time to close the window of the past and open the window of the future so that we can move forward. We can no longer be stuck in an old window. Because future is bright. And we are paving the way for a better future for our communities. So take God and good people and move your communities forward this way. God bless you.
Yes.
My country, you was in Dar es Salaam, in Tanzania, I'm heading downstairs.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a morning. A lot of nutrition in this morning and a lot of work. You know, I think we just all got our walking papers on how to get to work. But it's good work and we're all looking forward to it. We're going to take our quick break for lunch and come back at right at 12:30, everybody. It will wrap up and we'll wrap up. 12:30, back in this room. Thank you, everybody. Awesome. So we'll have lunch and we'll walk on back. Wrap up.
I'm putting right in here. I sent them mental health social worker.